Giti Purfazel, the lawyer representing Sattar Beheshti's family, the web blogger who passed away in prison, said that one of the Iranian intelligence agents who had interrogated his client was the main cause of Mr. Beheshti's death. On Wednesday, the 26th of June, Mrs. Purfazel criticized the authority for not sending Sattar Beheshti's judicial records relating to his death to the court, and stated that they are buying time to reduce the sensitivity on the matter. The Gallup polling organization stated in a report that in some cases over the past year, Iran has faced difficulties in providing food and housing. This report, which was published on Monday the 1st of July, continues that, according to the majority of Iranians, they pass their days with depression, anxiety, and anger. Last week, Mrs. Shirin Ebadi, the head of Defenders of Human Rights Center and Nobel Peace Prize winner in 2003, following cyber attacks to the websites of opponents of the Iranian regime, wrote a letter to Ahmad Shahid, the United Nations Special Rapporteur on the situations of human rights in Iran. A number of citizens of Zarand in Kerman, due to cease of completion of construction projects, protested by bringing the train leading Yazd to Kerman to a halt for 2 hours. Due to this project, it has been months since the access to cities around Zarand have become difficult. Arak is one of the most polluted cities in Iran. This city has around 600 working industrial units, 300 of which are polluting the environment. People of Arak have protested against this issue as they spend 250 days out of 365 days of the year in this pollution. 3 members of the European Parliament sent a letter of concern to the Iranian ambassador in Brussels, expressing their grave concern about Arash Sadeghi, an imprisoned student activist, and requested an immediate consideration of his situation.
Iran's elections accomplished, what's next? Conference, Culture, Discussion, Human Rights at Hanover's Schwanenberg. Friday the 21st of June 2013. Just 1 week after presidential elections in Iran, experts on Iran and human rights organizations met to exchange views in public on the perspectives for the civil society in Iran and consequences of the results for Europe. Keynote by Professor D. Gholamazad, evaluations by Dr. K. Sido, Society for Threatened People, Lydia Boons, International Organization to Preserve Human Rights in Iran, and Tessa Spethman from Amnesty University Group Hanover. Chair of the conference, H. Garbel, MaryRan.de, Music and Poetry by the Pearl Ensemble and Barbara Naziri. Iran's coming president will be Hassan Rouhani. 2 weeks ago, just before the presidential elections, not few analysts were convinced that it could have been Saeed Jalili. 1 week after the elections, and with Hassan Rouhani chosen by a majority of those who accepted the tight voting conditions in Iran, human rights organizations all over the world expressed concern that Mr. Rouhani should keep to his promises and improve the human rights situation and free all political prisoners. Meanwhile, some human rights organizations gathered in Hanover, Germany, on Friday the 21st of June 2013, in a conference on the perspectives for civil society in Iran after Mr. Rouhani will have taken over. After Mrs. Naziri recited a poem about an ant that unites with other ants to withstand the tyrannical system of the scorpions, the moderator of the conference, Mr. H. Garbel, who runs a background information website on Iran called meriran.de, introduced the circumstances of the latest elections.
Professor Gholamazad, danke, dass Sie gekommen sind, auch wenn der Wind immer wieder hier mitspielen will. Was haben Sie uns für Thesen mitgebracht zu den Wahlergebnissen im Iran?
Vielen Dank für die Einladung. Angesichts der Fragestellung habe ich einige Thesen formuliert. Zunächst einmal über die Funktion der Wahlen für die
Professor Gholamazad delivered the keynote speech on what he analysed is the nature of the system and the conditions for a serious change in favour of respect for human, citizen and social rights, and ecological and economical prospects for the future of Iran's population. Professor Gholamzad stressed two facts. One, the expansionist ideology of IOPHRI, hiding behind the mask of Islam, including non-tolerance for anyone who doesn't follow this interpretation, with no prospect of change, as Mr. Rouhani's record until now shows a tight loyalty to the leader and to the system. And two, the lack of possibilities to raise organizations within Iran and participate in creating a strong civil society that is dedicated to improving life for every Iranian and not just an elite group. Finally, he concluded that Western governments must focus on human rights instead of negotiations about the nuclear case, because a democratic Iran would not need to be feared for its aggressiveness.
Und Rouhani meint auch ganz geschickt, dass die Gespräche auch mit der
Mrs. Boones followed as the next speaker on behalf of the International Organization to Preserve Human Rights in Iran. She gave a summary of some commentaries on the elections in the Western press and concluded that her organization will keep an eye on Mr. Rouhani's performance concerning human rights and continue protests and street actions in favor of the suppressed and unjustly treated people in Iran.
And we also have to keep informing the people in Iran about our actions and support to encourage them in their resistance. In fact, the election of Rouhani as a new president does not change the course of our actions, because we think that the actions of the international civic society should only stop when people in Iran can shape their own lives and live without fear or repression.
Dr. Kamal Sido, a Syrian-born expert on Near East, who spoke on behalf of the Society for Threatened People based in Göttingen, Germany, expressed his worries that Iran might face the same fate as Syria, and Iran could be torn apart if the questions of the circumstances of ethnic and religious minorities are not dealt with in an all-embracing manner. He requested that Mr. Rouhani should stick to his promises and raised three demands: local autonomy for ethnic minorities in the frame of an Iranian confederation, freedom of belief for each religious community, abolishment of the death penalty, and complying with international human rights standards. Finally, Mrs. Tessa Spethman, representing Amnesty International University Group, Hanover, gave an outline of Amnesty's request to respect human rights in Iran. She introduced the case of the student Majid Tavakoli, who was jailed after a speech he held at the university in Tehran after the rigged elections of 2009. She invited the audience to help with petitions for individuals' rights and help keep an eye on the whole situation. After a discussion round with the audience that was interested in both the political surrounding of Iran and the human rights questions, Mrs. Spethman read from a letter of Nasrin Sotoudeh to her daughter. A poem dedicated to Mrs. Sotoudeh by Rasoul Moattamedi called Inscribed was recited in combination with music. Finally, Mrs. Naziri ended the conference with a poem about the earth of the home country, which she dedicated to Omid Kokabi, another prisoner of the regime.
Keines meiner Worte steht zum Verkauf. Bringt mir Datteln, mein Freund, und duftenden Schei, damit wir unsere Heimat schmecken. Nichts bleibt vergessen. Nichts.
Mr. Garbel reminded the audience of the case of a political prisoner in Evin who had lost his vital interest to survive. When he learned that there were Europeans taking interest in the situation of political prisoners in Iran, he claimed that saved his life and inspired him to resist. Thus, the audience at this kind of conference gives support and inspires courage and hope for the people in Iran to take care of their future freedom. On Saturday, the 29th of June, it is claimed that a suspect named Hussein Tukan, better known as Hussein Tugan, was executed in public in the city of Athaz from a crane. He was charged with drug dealing. On Saturday, the 29th of June, Afshin Nareki, head of the Gush Saharan prison, claimed that Mr. A.S., who was accused of murdering Mohsen Hosseini Meek, was hanged in Gush Saharan prison. Moreover, 4 individuals, Ruhala, Sajjad, Tarab, and Ali, who are said to have committed robbery, have been sentenced to death in public on charges of moharebe. Despite international protests, the prosecutor of Qazvin announced that on Sunday, the 30th of June, 2 people were hanged in public in the Golzar junction of Karaj city. Reports indicate that Mir Taher Mousavi, a former MP, a university lecturer, and a member of Mir Hossein Mousavi's 2009 presidential campaign, has been sentenced to 3 years imprisonment as well as 2 years suspended sentence. Ali Zadeh, the general police commander of the city of Lorestan, claimed that 2 people accused of drug trafficking were hanged in the central prison of Khorram Abad. On Wednesday, the 3rd of July, Reza Shahabi, a board member of the bus company in the city of Tehran, Shiva Nazar Ahari, a student suspended from university due to her human rights activities, as well as Abdullah Jafari, a political prisoner of the Section 350 of Evin prison, were all tried due to being absent during their New Year's leave. Behnam Ebrahimzadeh, a Labour activist who is currently on leave due to his child suffering from blood cancer, was arrested, threatened and insulted following a visit to Tehran's prosecutor's office. On the morning of Tuesday, the 2nd of July, 21 individuals were hanged in the Ghazal Abad prison, and on Wednesday, the 3rd of July, an additional 4 individuals were hanged in the Rajai prison of the city of Karaj. On Tuesday, the 27th of June, 36 civil activists, 8 of whom were female, who were planning to hold a ceremony in the foothills of Mount Sarhand, were arrested and physically abused while crossing the Causeway Bridge over the Urumi Lake. On the morning of Wednesday, the 3rd of July, Mehdi Kodai, a political prisoner who is currently in Section 350 of Evin prison, has been fined in the Jerusalem's judicial complex. On Wednesday, the 26th of June, Ali Nazeri, a dentist and one of the founders of Iran's Green Civilians, was arrested and transferred to Section 350 of the Evin prison by Tehran's enforcement prosecutor security forces. Three Gonabadi dervishes, Mohsen Esmaili, Sayyid Ibrahim Bahami, and Mohammad Ali Deghan, have been physically abused and interrogated in the prison in the city of Shiraz. Due to this extreme mental and physical pressure, they need to be transferred to a hospital for therapy. A month has passed since the arrest of Mohammad Reza Fraid Said Safi and Hamid Reza Qadiri, who were charged for converting to Christianity in the city of Isfahan. No news has yet been heard of their situation. On Wednesday, the 3rd of July, regiment officers shot and killed Nazdar Moradi, a Kurdish wonder, in Sheikh Salih in the city of Selas Babajani. His 2 brothers, Jalal and Razgar, were also seriously wounded and are now being treated in a hospital in the city of Kermanshah.
"15 days ago, Ahmad Askari, a student activist from Tehran University studying international relations and political sciences, was arrested in a park in Tehran. Since his arrest, he has not been authorized to contact or visit any of his families. Reportedly, the judge in the 4th branch of East Azerbaijan Province Court has rejected the request of conditional release of Amir Chamani, a student activist who is in the central prison of Tabriz.
It has been claimed that on Wednesday the 26th of June, Hamid Reza Rostami, an Azerbaijani writer and journalist, was questioned and threatened by the Information Department officers of the city of Khoy for publishing one of his books. Fatame Khairadmand, a journalist, has been sentenced to 1 year imprisonment by Pir Abbasi, the head of Branch 26 of the Engelab Court in Tehran. She was charged with propaganda and collaborating with Galen Sabs, an online magazine. Reza Moqaddasi was arrested on Wednesday the 3rd of July after publication of Saeed Mortazavi accused of Kharizak prison crime and 200,000 Toman fine, and he was released after 8 hours.
Following the contract workers' strike on Khuzestan Steel Complex, the informal workers in this factory have joined the contract workers on the strike to support their formal counterparts. Approximately 4,000 workers joined them in the strike last Wednesday, which stopped the factory from operating. Last week, 300 workers of Khomeini International Airport in Tehran stopped working on Sunday and staged a protest at the airport. This strike is due to 6 months' worth of unpaid wages from the airport contractor. It has been more than 8 months since 80 of the employees of consulting engineering firm Energy Policy have not been paid. These employees have been working for this firm for a considerable amount of time, ranging from 3 to 28 years, yet since autumn 2012, no payments have been transferred to their accounts from the employer. The families of the dismissed workers of Shahriyar Turbine Parts Factory, one of the units of Ministry of Energy, protested in front of the company by sitting at the entrance door and demanded that fire workers get their jobs back. Sayed Asghar Sayed Khalili, one of the Qazvin Alvand lamp factory employees, has announced the non-payment of insurance premiums of employees at this firm. He has called for an investigation to be carried out on this matter by the Workers and Social Security Administration. News indicates that 100 civil engineer employees were fired in Kerman before proceeding to protest by gathering in front of the factory. Judge of Branch 1 of the Revolutionary Court in Sanandaj issued a sentence for Wafa Qaderi, a labor activist and a member of Coordinating Committee of Workers, accused of helping workers to establish union. The judge sentenced him to 1 year imprisonment.
On Thursday the 27th of June, Gholam Reza Vakili and Ali Hassan Samayeli, members of the Hassan Rouhani Information Department in the city of Sangor, were summoned and interrogated for several hours. This is believed to be due to the publication and distribution of analytical statements of reformists in the city of Sangor. On Wednesday the 26th of June, Iraj Mohammadi, political prisoner in Sahedin Central Prison, was returned to his cell after spending 5 days in solitary confinement, being beaten and harassed. Ali Satipi, the actor of Last film, said the Ministry of Culture and Islamic Guidance has banned the film's poster and its display on billboards. In the wake of a statement by a group of supporters of Hassan Rouhani, the proposal regarding the release of political prisoners and 2 of the leaders of the opposition movement currently under house arrest has resulted in 3 of the signatories to this statement, Jabar Haji Moradi, Hamid Reza Bardodi, and Kayomaz Vaizi, being summoned to the Office of Information. According to reports, 3 Azerbaijani civil society activists, Bahram Akhoni, Nazir Kazempour, and Majid Safidani, have been arrested, and there is no news of their situation. Mir Hossein Mousavi, leader of the opposition movement who was a candidate in the presidential elections in 2009 and has been kept under house arrest for more than 2 years along with his wife, was taken to Tehran Heart Hospital on Tuesday the 2nd of July. He is undergoing medical examination by a specialist doctor because of the persistence of symptoms of dizziness and hypertension. The request to have Mr. Mousavi hospitalized was rejected by security guards. There are reports that Mohsen Jakanbakhsh, a prisoner sentenced to death in the Raji Shah prison in Karaj city, has been moved to an undisclosed location and his situation is uncertain. Despite the government's claims that in the previous 8 years unemployment has been eradicated, statistics show the actual rate of unemployment is as high as it was in 2005. Others have joined the ranks of the unemployed, 3 million due to the low level of wages and 6 million are subject to labour law today and are on a minimum wage. Water shortage is a growing problem for the citizens of Ilam and Kermanshah provinces, so water is rationed in these cities. Whilst the employees of Sports Ministry are being paid partially, and they have said that it's due to the lack of funding, the ministers use private aircrafts with a huge cost to travel to the city of Mashhad. On Wednesday, the 3rd of July, Mohsen Aminzadeh, a political prisoner who is in Section 350 of Evin prison at the moment, is suffering from a heart disease and was admitted to Tehran's heart centre.